Hello, folks. I'm Nick Bernardo, your host of MyGovWatch Live, the B2G Roundtable. If you're east of the Rocky Mountains here in the U.S., good afternoon. Good morning to those out west, and hello to anyone joining us from the far corners of the earth or watching online in the future. Today is Wednesday, October 23rd, 2024. This series is brought to you by MyGovWatch. With a curated white glove approach, MyGovWatch delivers leads in more than 200 industries at double the rate of free government tools and at a fraction of the cost of legacy websites. Big government contracts do not start with a solicitation, but all roads lead to one, and your budget for hearing about RFPs does not have to be thousands of dollars per year. Start your free 14-day trial today. And today's co-host with the co-most is Adam Ince of Sam Directory. How you doing, Adam?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing great, doing great.
Awesome.
Adam is the consulting director with Sam Directory, an organization that helps users navigate the complex requirements of creating and managing accounts at Sam.gov. He also helps qualified clients obtain various other federal registrations and certs, such as WOSB, HubZone, Disabled Vet, etc. Adam brings years of experience working in the federal space, combined with 20 years of expertise in business development. His deep understanding of the federal contracting process and decades of experience helping businesses expand in the federal space can help companies looking to succeed in the government marketplace. So, folks, if you've been on with us before, and there's a few of you who have, we always have some return customers, so to speak, and lots of new faces on our webinars. I've been moving more and more to like a personal touch with personal anecdotes in the background. We have Halloween coming up, and this is last year's Halloween photo from my oldest son, who collected 26 pounds of candy. We live in a very dense suburban neighborhood outside of Philadelphia in New Jersey, and that's what 26 pounds of candy looks like. I will just say that he was not permitted to eat all of it. I think some of it went to charity, but it was really the hunt that really excited him, I think. So, Adam, you guys look forward to Halloween in your neck of the woods?
We do, yes. We definitely dress up, and kind of like you, we have a large community development. They go through the neighborhood, and the houses go all out. So it's really fun for the kids. Obviously, seeing a lot of cool stuff and getting lots of really good candy as well.
So we're going to talk about Halloween a little bit. If anyone has Halloween memories, we're going to ask you to share something if you're willing to, in addition to talking about all of your GovCon questions. And but also, Adam, I just want to ask you about your background. Where is it?
So I'm originally from Oklahoma, and I managed and owned a couple businesses there. And during COVID, I kind of made a career change and started working into more consulting for business development. One reason is to kind of help businesses scale up, but also during that time, a lot of people saw a lot of devastation and a lot of businesses closing. And one of the great ways to protect yourself against that is to work with the government directly. You can scale your business up or down with them very easily, and you kind of see really good forecasts come out. So I got involved with business development and just was really attracted to specifically the government side of things.
Well, there's always a way that all of us got into this industry. I certainly didn't graduate high school thinking I am going to have a career based entirely on government contracting, and here we are 30 years later. So, folks, we have, and for those of you who have been with us before, you already know this. If you're new to the session, we try to do something that is unscripted here, that is audience driven. So what I will be encouraging you to do starting now is raise your hand, right? So if you raise your hand, that's an indication to me that you would like to ask a question and participate. So I know there are some folks on here who may have questions about Sam.gov. Curry, I see you. I'm hoping you raise your hand. And Daniel, I know that we spoke earlier this week, and hopefully you'll be able to participate as well. But you can start by raising your hand. I'm going to ask Adam a question to start with, but we're going to be looking for some participation as we get into things a little bit further. It's an intimate group. We're talking a few dozen people. There's not hundreds of people on this session. So please don't be shy, and we'll get into some interesting questions. But Adam, the first question I have for you, tell us a little bit about Sam Directory. What is the scope of services that your organization provides?
Yeah, definitely. So we handle registrations. So that could be anything from getting registered to work with the government, certain departments, as well as set asides that help award chances for businesses a lot of times as well. And then we have a consulting side where we do anything from subcontracting plans, marketing businesses to prime vendors, proposal writing, grant writing, different things like that. It we work with a lot of businesses that need to get registered and kind of need to go through the very first steps of completing their first two proposals. And we work really well with a lot of companies that are trying to scale their business up with the government.
Well, and since we don't have any questions yet, and folks, by the way, we could use some participation. So I know you have questions. Please raise your hand and we'll bring you on. Let me ask you another follow-on question to that. What, and this is really about Sam.gov, and I know that that is the name of the company, Sam Directory, but a lot of people may not understand the scope or why they would need a Sam.gov account. Can you talk a little bit about like the bookends around that?
Yeah, definitely. So if you're wanting to do business with the government, you need a SAM registration. If you're wanting to do business in the private sector with other companies, it's still good to be registered because they may be working on government contracts that you're not aware of. So if you're a reseller of product or services, it's really good to get registered because you're on the radar of a lot of those large companies that need to utilize a subcontractor that's considered a small business in order for them to be considered for a contract. So it really opens up the door to a lot of processes with working in the private sector as well, mainly with the government. You also kind of get a little bit of an understanding when a company's registered to work with the government. They've kind of gone through a little bit more vetting process, which makes it a little bit more comfortable for private businesses to work with them as well.
Yeah, and I know that, for example, you can't have a loan from the federal government without a SAM account. You can't receive a grant unless you have a Sam.gov account. Am I missing anything?
So yeah, grants, if you're just going after funding and assistance or grants, a UEI number is definitely required. You have to at least go through the IRS validation in order for the government to know that you are a legitimate company, your principal address, things like that. Cage code is going to be needed for working and going after contracts or being a reseller or a subcontractor for them as well too.
And we've had some new people join us on the session. We're just a few minutes into the hour here. So folks, I'll just, for the purposes of anyone who just joined in, anyone who would like to participate with a question should raise their hand. And we'd like to bring you on and talk about what questions you may have about government contracting. Adam, give me your total years of experience in GovCon.
About 5 to 6 years now, about 5.5 years. So coming up on 6 years.
So,
I,
so
go
close
ahead.
to 40 years of experience of government contracting in the session. And we have a question. Scott, we're going to bring you in. And by the way, while we're waiting for Scott, I will just give you this incentive. Anyone who participates in the webinar with a question qualifies for a 1-month free trial of MyGovWatch.com to hear about government RFPs and solicitations, federal, state, and local. Typically, if you go to the site, it's advertised as a 14-day trial. It becomes 30 days if you participate. So let me just try that again and bring Scott on. Scott, you may have gotten a request to join as a panelist. There we go.
Hi, Scott.
Okay, we'll wait for Scott to get his audio at least. Scott, can you hear us?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, sir. And video
yes,
is
sir.
optional. Video is optional here at MyGovWatch Live, but are you sharing just audio or video as well?
I'm just about to turn it on if I can. So let's see if we're in business here. How about now?
We're just audio, and that's okay. So keep trying to get the video on, but let's just start with this. Where are
Okay.
you joining us from, Scott, and what do you do?
I am with Potomac Health Associates, and we are based in the Washington, D.C. area. We are a consulting firm that works primarily with organizations and companies in the health industry, whether it's providers, IT specialists, or virtually anybody in the healthcare industry who might be interested in federal contracting. And we specialize in working with companies who have the capabilities, but really have no experience or deep understanding of what it takes to get into the business. And that's where we come into play.
Okay, and most importantly, do you look forward to Halloween? Any kids, grandkids, or other reasons you might be into Halloween? Any fun plans coming up for the holiday?
Well, I have a 7-year-old grandson who is just absolutely enthralled with the holiday, and he and I carved a pumpkin recently, which I never did as a child myself. So it was quite a feat for both of us. So yeah, we're excited. We're ready to go. And I might say that I would take off your hands virtually everything in the background that is a Reese's peanut butter cup from your son. If you want to get it off your hands.
Yes, they don't last long at our house. And it becomes a very dangerous situation because I'm the last one awake, right? And I know where the candy is, and that's the problem.
Right.
So I guess, Scott, thank you for sharing that personal anecdote. What can we help you with? What are you trying to achieve in GovCon, and what questions might you have?
Well, I have a question specifically about SAM, and I've been a longtime user of multiple federal databases, and I was very familiar with and comfortable with FBO. When it was superseded by SAM, there was one capability that I have not yet been able to replicate in SAM that I had in FBO, and I thought that might be a good question for Adam. And that was the following. In FBO, I could set up a search that for a category of announcements. And in my case, what I did was I set up a search for section PSCQ. And I wanted that to run every day and get automatic email alerts. But I only wanted to get information that had been added since the previous day. I didn't want to get everything that had been in whatever, I think you used to specify a time period for your announcements. But I have not been able to replicate that in SAM, and wondered if, Adam, you might have some thoughts about how that can be done. And if it can be done. I'd spoken with some people at the FSC desk who said it couldn't at that point, and I don't know whether they've made any changes, so I'll let you take a shot at it.
Okay, absolutely. So in SAM, you can set up your searches. You can do that based off of industry codes. So that would be your NAICS code, as well as set up searches for PSC, your product service codes. Depending on the product service code, you normally do have a letter that correlates with a industry, as well as several numbers that follow off of that. So if you only choose just one letter for the group, it should populate everything. If you wanted to populate something more specific, then there's usually numbers that will fall after that letter qualification. And you can set that up for it to only show relevant new contracts that do come out. You can set that up by posted dates, and you can literally set that for anything after that date. So the day of or anything after. I will tell you that if you are looking at a solicitation and it does come out because you've been notified of it, at least try to follow that, because if you don't have your search set up, in order for it to alert you of an amendment, you may not be responding to the whole solicitation, but you can do that.
Can I ask you a question, Scott, about your question?
Yeah.
What is the reason why because the distinction that you've made is that you're specifically interested in solicitations that have been altered, right?
Uh, mm, well, either new solicitations in that category or um, solicitations that have been altered. I guess that would apply too. I'm familiar with the way to follow a specific solicitation, but that's a little bit different from just getting announcements on a daily basis of a new solicitation that
Right.
has been announced since the previous email alert, since the previous day.
Right, right. And yes, and to your point, they do recognize, and there are filters on the left on Sam.gov for seeing what has been changed. So I think you're referring to the FBO website. And Adam, if you've been at this 6 years, I'm not sure FBO was even around.
FBO doesn't exist, and
Right,
and like he stated that he was using that, and then Sam did their beta test, and then
right,
Sam.gov came out.
right. So yeah, back in the day on FBO, I'm aware that you could do a search agent that was proactive and that would send you an email, right?
Yeah.
Scott, is that what you're referring to?
Yes, and you know, I know you can do that in Sound right now, so you get alerts to things that you've set up search agents for. Yes.
Okay. All right. But you're saying you're aware that that functionality exists. Are you using it?
Oh yeah, yeah. I've been using that for years now.
Okay. So what is the gap here between what the site SamGov offers and what you're trying to get to if you're able to do this today?
Well, it was basically being able to isolate anything new in a broad category. Again, as I said, section Q is the one that I focus, that I look at most closely, and only be alerted to anything that had not been published in
Yeah.
section Q the day before.
Okay. All right. So a couple of things. So there's some expertise obviously on Adam's side about use of SamGov. When it gets to notification of new opportunities, that's where MyGovWatch comes in. And I try not to make this session an ad for MyGovWatch, but one of the things that we're doing is we're mirroring the data on SamGov so that if certain NAICS codes and certain concepts come up, we route those to categories in our system and make sure that they pop up in your inbox the next day. So that's functionality that we have that we've taken, quite frankly, further than SamGov because we have some things in our algorithm that's looking at certain combinations of NAICS codes as well as product service codes in certain combinations to make
Yeah,
sure that you see those things. So you can, and another thing you could do, there are some emerging things with robotic process automation where if you found somebody in the IT space, you could set things up as a one-off to do certain searches on SamGov daily and do it that way. So I'm saying, it's not just us. You could use our site for something like this, or you could hire an IT person to create a robotic process that would help as well.
okay, good.
Scott, a follow up on that. You said you know how to do a safe search. I think what you're missing is that when you go down to the category for contract opportunities underneath the NAICS code, you can search with PSC codes. Right
Yes.
above that is a place for you to put in dates, and you can literally choose a filter that it just shows the past day solicitations that come out.
Yeah.
And Scott, is it that you're not wanting to remember to?
I just lost you for a minute.
Are you just not wanting to dedicate time to that every day?
That's part of it, Nick. Yeah, I think what I'm trying to do is um, get rid of the noise and not have to look at things that I've already looked at before and just focus on what's new.
Yeah, and so our site lets you hide opportunities that you've already seen so that you won't see them again. So I would just recommend, Scott, that you give our site a try. And if you do, I will make the 14-day trial a 30-day trial, which would basically take you to the end of November. And somebody on our team would talk to you about, about parameters of that. Again, I don't want to make this too promotional because that's not the point of the webinar, but you really do seem like a candidate for someone who should at least try the site.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Yeah, and Scott, you can stay with us. Jonathan, we're going to bring you in next. Percy, we see your hand as well. Scott, would you like to stay with us in this manner, or would you like me to put you on mute for now and then jump back in by raising your hand a little bit later?
Yeah, why don't I jump back in if I have anything to say or another question?
Fair enough. Let's bring on Jonathan, and thank you for your question.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes, Jonathan, welcome to MyGovWatch Live. Are you giving us audio only or video as well?
I can do video as well.
Totally up to you. Thought I'd ask.
Yep.
Hey, Jonathan, welcome to MyGovWatch Live. What do you do and where are you joining us from?
So, auction company out of Middlebury, Indiana, and have had quite a bit of success just dealing with the general public, and we want to get into the government contracts is what we're after. Brand new to the space. We want to be at the state level, at the more of the how do you say it? Not the national, but the state, the cities. We want to try to get to everyone that we can. So my question is this do you guys have all those RFPs? Are you more just at the state level? Do you do the cities as well, or what's your, I guess, what all can you offer?
So MyGovWatch aggregates data from thousands of sources, federal, state, and local. We recognize 21 different types of buyers. So that could be anything from a state body, a school district, a utility authority, you name it. So it's very granular in terms of that. So, you sound like also a candidate who should at least try the site. You have to put in a credit card, but you have 14 days before the card is charged. But tell us a little bit more about your business. What kinds of auctions do you do?
So heavy equipment, heavy construction equipment is what we're after. And I know I'm almost done with the first 14-day trial.
Okay.
And I know some of them, the RFPs, they need more than just heavy equipment. So, and we can subcontract that, if I'm not mistaken, if there's auctions that we don't want. Is that correct? We can subcontract that to other auction companies, or how does that work?
That is correct. Any contract that you look at, that's an opportunity. If you can do everything, obviously it's a good fit. If you can do 50 to 70% of it, it's a great fit, as long as you have someone in mind that you can facilitate the other work that needs to be done. They need to be able to submit a subcontracting plan. It may be something that you submit for them, but they'll have to provide information. And of course, you work out that arrangement with them on price, cost, things like that. But yes, you can definitely do that.
Okay, thank you.
Did you say you were an auction company?
Correct.
Okay. So do you guys go ahead and handle live auctions, estate sales, different things like that?
So live auctions, online auctions. We don't do a lot of estate sales. We try to stay more the heavy construction.
So you guys do online virtual auctions?
Yes.
Okay. So we need to have a call sometime. You need to be looking at GSA. GSA auctions, they're responsible for auctioning off all the government's surplus. So when you talk about steel, old vehicles, old boats, everything from the National Guard and military that can be sold to the public, the GSA will auction that off as raw material or equipment. They normally have people handle that. There is a GSA auction website, but they normally handle people that come in and handle maybe a certain area. So if you have around a military base or National Guard center or something like that, they're going to be auctioning off equipment once they go through the resale of upgrading everything that they have. They do that with office equipment, raw material, vehicles, you name it. So that's a really good place to keep an eye out as well. And then if you guys provide any as far as like heavy equipment, do you guys auction that off, or do you guys also supply that as maybe a rental or a leasing option?
No, we either just sell it for them, or we'd also look at buying it from them if it's for sale and they're not necessarily looking for auction.
Okay, perfect. They do. The government does buy refurbished equipment, so there is an option for you guys to be able to sell some of that off pretty quick directly to the government if that RFP comes out in your timeline with whenever you are doing the auction.
Got it. Okay.
And I'm not sure if there was outreach or maybe if we spoke earlier during your trial, Jonathan, but there's two different categories on our website, one for auctions and appraisals and one for sale by government. And so if you see things under that category where they say we're selling X, right? They might be selling a large piece of equipment. That's a tell that they might need an auction service because they already have bought into the concept of liquidating assets. So I would encourage you to have both of those categories under your account as well.
Yeah. Yeah. I think when we spoke, we did speak on the phone, or I believe it was
Yes.
you that I spoke with. But yeah, I think I've got both of those set. So.
All right. So, Jonathan, do you have any Halloween plans or fun stories from your past or things that you're looking forward to with Halloween?
We have my wife and I have a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old.
All right.
And, we're trying to, both girls, trying to keep them as far away from the candy as we can. But
Good luck.
so we are sticking with pumpkins this year, and they both went to the local pumpkin stand earlier this week and picked out a bunch of pumpkins, and they love it.
Nice.
It won't be long. All the other kids will have candy and they'll eat it, which is fine. But we try to keep as much sugar away from them as possible.
That's a good thing to do. Give them a little bit, let them have a reward, but don't let them get too far into it, right?
Not 26 pounds.
Not 26 pounds.
26 pounds.
Well, hey, Jonathan, do you want to stay with us and then jump in as you have questions, or do you want me to put you back into the group?
You can put me back in the group. If something else comes up, I'll just raise my hand.
Just raise your hand, and thanks for trying our site. Thanks for joining today. And
Thanks, Jonathan.
And if you want to jump back on.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Percy, we're going to bring you on.
Hello there. Can you hear me?
Okay, Percy,
Yes,
we have your audio. Are we getting video or
Of
just
course,
there we go?
Nick. You always
There we
get video
go.
with me. Okay.
All right.
Yeah. You're for you.
Percy.
How are you doing, buddy?
Doing great, man. Thanks for joining us at MyGovWatch Live. What do you do and where are you joining us from?
Well, you know, Nick, but I'll tell the team. I'm joining from Palm Beach County. I am in staffing for 12 years now. So staffing, recruitment, executive search, workforce management, performance management, compensation, benefits analysis, even labor relations, and HR consulting, essentially. Yeah. And I guess today I want to focus on, and I'm sure I have on my mind that FOIA request that I made the other week.
Yes.
But I want to focus on the pre and the post process of this, because I spoke with another, you're probably familiar with Deltec.
Yes.
I spoke with a lady from Deltec, and really some interesting information about forecasting new opportunities. Very interesting, but also more so the post process thing, right? I'll give you a couple of anecdotes. Just last week had a Tallahassee, Florida bid opening, which they did publicly, and I just missed by about 3%. I was 67% out of 70. I didn't have any Florida references because I'm new, and I'm requesting the results, right? I haven't gotten them back yet.
Yes, and I'm remembering now that you did that through our site. Yes.
Oh yeah, exactly. And then no, that's another bid. That's Hillsborough County. That's Hillsborough County.
And the disconnect was I know you as a different name than the name on the screen.
Right. You're right. My name's Ryan, but I get Percy Towers is the company, right? So yeah, I guess I'm just curious about like how hard can I press these folks? Like what can I do to beyond FOIA, nicely, cordially, like ask for results, even if I don't win a bid, because this information is valuable to me and my organization in terms of my future in government contracting.
So are you asking how do you find out, like, are you specifically asking, how do you find out why did you lose? Or like, what would it take to win in the future, right? Or are we talking about the FOIA request that you've made through our site?
Both, all of it, yeah.
Okay. So I would look at it this way, and Adam, I'd encourage you to jump in once I go through this piece. Look at the FOIA request as one piece of information, right? So if we're able to get you the contract, and by the way, for those who don't know, we do a la carte FOIA requests on the site where if you want to find out what happened with a contract, you can have us request it so you're anonymous, but you still get the information. And what we request is a copy of the contract, evaluation documents that explain why they picked who they picked, maybe some pricing by vendor, even a copy of the winning proposal. So you might get information from those documents, like that's silo A, but that doesn't preclude you from calling John or Nancy in the purchasing department after the fact and saying, hey, John, how do you think this all came about that they picked company A? They might tell you things that are not in the documents, right? They might be one person and their comments and their view was consolidated into the documents as the official reason for why they picked company A, but you might get some intelligence from a real person that might not be in the documents. So the documents are important, but it's not the only way to find out like what would be important the next time you bid on something from that buyer. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. So in other words, once I get that request back, whatever information, I probably could go and call Israel Segura and kind of ask about it myself.
Yes,
I was like, I didn't
yes.
do the FOIA request. That it wasn't. They don't know what you're talking. Yeah. Okay,
You would not even refer to the FOIA request. You just
Exactly.
have that information, but you can always ask additional questions, and the right person may answer them.
Person. Perfect.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Adam, what would you add to this?
I would reach out to the contracting officer that's listed on the solicitation, and if there's more than one contact, CC both of them. You can certainly call people all you want. I've never had any luck with calling somebody that wasn't listed as a representative on that contract to give me any information. They literally can lose their job if they do. So you can try that route. Maybe they can give you somebody to contact. That would be good. You know, hey, I submitted a solicitation to this. I'd like to get my debriefing. Who do I need to contact? Because I've emailed the two contacts listed and no one has responded to me. At the end of the day, there are guidelines to the debriefing request. And if you don't request that by a certain time, they don't have to send you any information. With the federal government, it's 3 days that you have to submit an email. It needs to be, you know, timestamped with email that, hey, I'm requesting a debriefing. They normally, the last one we did, they told them why they were down selected and were against one other company. And they told them, and it's very, the verbiage they use is kind of hard to understand sometimes, but they base it off of the grading evaluation that's listed in that solicitation. Mm-hmm. So they may say something that seems like it's very negative to you, but they're only really speaking in context to who they awarded it to. They have to use rules in order for them to say, we're not giving it to you, we're giving it to them. And so it's all in relation to that. It's not related to that it doesn't encompass everyone that bid on the contract. They're not giving you just your grade. So if you didn't measure up well against somebody's past performance, they'll let you know that. They don't say it as nice as that, but that's kind of what you get. And you can look, what we normally do is go back through and look who was awarded the contract, look at their past performance, and we can normally tell you, okay, they bid this much on it. They've got 15 contracts with the state of Florida already. 2 of them are in Hillsborough County, whatever it may be. This is a big factor of why they probably got that contract awarded. We look at the size determination of how big they are. If they're going to be a large company, that's somebody you need to be in with as a subcontractor to facilitate some supporting aspects as a subcontractor. But we can kind of look to determine of what we think your grade is going to be in relation to who you're competing with.
Gotcha.
Adam,
not to be adversarial. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, Adam, can you just qualify that for us? If I'm not mistaken, your expertise is primarily federal. Like you're talking about federal debriefing, yes?
We do federal and state. Federal debriefing is what I spoke about as far as the time frame goes.
Yes.
The state of
Yes.
Florida, I am not 100% on the time frame. Most of the time, the states will be anywhere from 3 to 5 days. And sometimes they will list it on the solicitation as well. But just like the federal government has federal acquisition requirements that contracting officers have to follow, there are also state contracting obligations that contractor has to follow. Rules just like the FAR, and there is a debriefing process that they will go through.
Yeah, so I want to just qualify that as well, Ryan. So I agree spot on everything that Adam said. So as it relates to the debriefing process, they're following a process. There are bookends around the type of contact you can have with purchasing people and then the business users on the other side. Because don't forget, there are purchasing people, right? And they're administering the purchasing process. Then there are the business users, right? So in FOIA documents you might get at the state and local level, you might see 5 or 6 names in those documents. One of them might be the official purchasing contact. That's the person who will give you the formal debriefing as per the federal FAR or the state or local guidelines or policies around that. What I'm suggesting is outside of the bookends of purchasing, if there is not an active solicitation, if something has come and gone and it's been contracted, you're no longer in the cone of silence. And if you can talk to someone, you can talk to them. Now, to Adam's earlier point, you are far less likely to get someone on the phone federally than at the state and local level.
Even state and local is pretty hard. Yeah, I get it. One other thing I wanted to touch on that because you've emphasized regulations and rules, and you mentioned they offered it to a company who is much larger, yada yada. But and not to be adversarial, what if you find out, the owner of that company ends up being the brother of whatever, sort of thing, and then you want to do a protest? Do you recommend it, or do you what do you think about that?
So can I answer that?
Yeah, go, please.
Awesome. Do you know that to be the case?
I don't know. I'm just saying,
Okay.
For example, hypothetically.
Gotcha.
I'm not.
So
Yeah.
any proposal I've ever done for anyone, there's always a statement you have to make stating that you are not a lobbyist, you are not contributing to anyone in your district. There's several different things that will eliminate you to bidding on that if there is a conflict of interest. My brother works for a government agency for the state level, and we don't communicate about government stuff at all, right? Just because it will never happen. Just because they have to be pretty safe about what they do and who they talk to. And I'm sure there's some backroom handshakes that go on, but you're talking about huge corporations that have been doing military and government contracts and state contracts for years and years and years. And there is still a process that the government will go through to eliminate anyone else that could compete on that contract. So they'll put out RFIs, RFQs, they'll put out solicitations that are written so complex that they only know 1 or 2 companies could even bid on that in the first place. And so they don't always make it easy for one person to do it with a handshake, but they sometimes make it to where there may only be a handful of companies that can perform a project that size.
Yeah. They actually just
I
passed
would
a
even
law.
take it one step.
Yeah.
I would even take it one step further and say that if the people crafting the solicitation know what they're doing, they should intentionally make it so that only 5 or 6 companies can apply. Because if they only get one, they can't really make an award if there's only one bid. And why would they ever want to review 24 proposals? So if they really know the market, right, and they know what they're buying, they should be able to craft it so that they know a certain number of companies can bid, but it would be an allowable number of bids. That would be the right way to do it if I were on that side.
Very fair. Okay. Cool.
Ryan, do you have a follow-up now, or do you want to jump, or you want to stay on with us, like on video, and then just
Sure. Yeah.
stay with us? I just want to give you all the batting order because a bunch of you have raised your hands now. We have Kerry. Kerry, we're going to bring you on next. James, Erin, and David. David, we're going to bring you on. I'll type you something, and we also have some anonymous questions that we're going to get to about Sam.gov. But before we go further, before I bring you on, Kerry, I just want to ask Adam another question. So when did you come to Sam Directory, and what is your particular area of focus with the company?
Good question. So I was with a large firm for about close to 4 years, and I left for reasons being about how they were handling their clients. I see a very huge disconnect with companies that are considered small business, even middle-sized businesses that are scaling up, working with the government, and not really being able to get the help that they need. Instead, everyone kind of scratches the surface of this is what you need to do, and then they're kind of left in the wind with, okay, what do I do now? And so I freelanced for a long time. I did proposal writing. I contracted with about 2 or 3 different companies at once, and I would just write proposals for them pretty much all day long. And I met with Major, the owner of Sam Directory, and we probably visited for about 3 months talking about his vision, my vision, what we see wrong with the industry, and who are the companies that are not being served properly. And we developed a business plan in order to really focus on helping those clients, as well as still helping some of our larger clients as well. We're working on a process to make it a lot easier for companies that need subcontractors to be able to rely on vetted, registered companies in a database that they can easily speak to and be within their network. And this happens well before a contract's even identified. This needs to happen, a month, 2 months, 3 months before that. If you're a plumber and you don't do electricity, you need an electrician. If you're an HVAC and don't do plumbing, you need a plumber. We need to connect these guys so that when they're looking at these contracts, instead of saying, I can't do this because I can't do electricity, they know I can call Roger. We've already connected. Let's see if we can go after this contract together. And that's the idea that we want, so that more people that are considered small businesses going after their first contract can be more successful to win that.
Well, the needs are endless. And with that, I would like to invite, I think I'm correct on this. This is from memory, and I'm 50 years old now. Isn't it Dr. Kerry Valencia? All right, Kerry, can you give us audio?
Yes, thank you.
Yes.
Hi, Nick.
Thank
It's
you.
nice
Thank you
to
for
see
jumping on. Welcome to MyGovWatch Live. We have some familiarity. Kerry is a user of MyGovWatch.com. So Kerry, well, before we go further, why don't you tell us where are you joining us from? And for those who don't know, what do you do?
Thank you. I'm joining from the Washington, D.C. area, and my business is Connected Consulting. We are an educational and small business nonprofit consulting firm with services in leadership, curriculum and professional development, strategic planning, and organizational health. We've only been in business since March of this year, and we signed up for MyGovWatch, I think in April. And through MyGovWatch, we've already been awarded 6 contracts. So yay, it's going very well. We're really happy. And Nick, reached out to me when I was doing the trial and got on a call with me and walked me through the website, which was so helpful. And this session has been really helpful. Some questions I didn't know that I had. Now I'm like, ooh, okay, now I need to think about this. So thank you for the previous participants' questions. They were really helpful. My question might be really basic, but our company is in the process of applying to Sam.gov. We actually applied in June, but there was a hiccup because our LLC was registered through Virginia and through a registered agent. So we were told that we had to have a physical presence. So we actually we went through the whole rigmarole this summer to move our business to be based out of Dallas, Texas, where one of my partners is located. And so we've already done that process, and now we're about to go back and resubmit whatever we need to do. But my question is, well, I have 2 questions, and again, they might be basic, but they literally are my questions.
No problem.
Thanks. So, one is, what is the difference really between registering for Sam.gov and having the service of MyGovWatch? Like, what is the benefit for having the additional service?
Yeah, so I'm going to take that one first, Adam. So MyGovWatch is aggregating data from thousands of sources. Sam.gov is one of them. It's only one source, right? So if someone says to us, I want to hear about federal contracts, and I could care less about GSA, I just want federal contracts. And if we then ask them, well, are you interested in lots of different things or only one thing? And if they say one thing, then we say, okay, well, you really don't need us. What you need to do is go onto Sam.gov once a day, spend 15 minutes, do a couple of searches, and you really don't need us. But if they tell us that they're interested in many different things federally, or one thing, federal, state, and local, it's a game changer, because instead of going to one site every day, you'd have to go to dozens or even hundreds, even in one state, to track and monitor the procurements that are happening. But if someone only wants federal contracts and only sells one widget and has the time to do that every day, where they just spend 15 minutes looking at Sam.gov, you don't necessarily need us. The value is we're proactively notifying you when things match, right? And we have some unique things built into our algorithm that is looking for things that we might be able to put in front of you that you may not think to search on. So those are the value adds specifically.
That's okay. That's really, really helpful. Perfect. And then my other question, Adam, might be for you is, what are some just general tips for a small business? We are a business of 3, and we're new. And what are some tips for businesses like ours to kind of set ourselves apart for contracts?
Yeah, gotcha. Definitely marketing to agencies specific. A lot of the capabilities and the type of business, the way you're structured, definitely be looking at some grants that are available. I know the National Institute of Science is going to be a good one for you to do. Even the IRS and the Department of Treasury, they do a lot of training. They do educational training. They do HR, work placement, employee benefits and health and different things like that. So they do a lot of that as well. And those are a lot of times contracts. And then, of course, Department of Education. So, a lot of people that go after Department of Education contracts or grants are facilitating that work in the community. But the Department of Education does a lot of training in-house, and a lot of people need to understand that. And so when you're talking about you do training in HR and consulting for education, you need to make sure you're looking at the Department of Education to actually go in there and train their employees and their personnel and staff on how to address a lot of the things that you would be seeing out there.
Okay, that's really helpful.
And there was a question, Carrie, there was a question from another attendee, and I think I know the answer. I'm just going to address it. Someone says, Carrie, how did you win 6 contracts without a Sam.gov registration? Isn't it true that those would be state and local contracts?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
That's what I figured.
Go ahead.
The majority of them are in Texas, where our company is based now. Yeah. Exactly.
The state health department, Department of Mental Health, and then state education department are going to be huge aspects for you. You're probably going to see a lot more of an abundance of contracts that come out that are specifically for you from the state, but you will see government contracts. The second part of your first question was about Sam.gov. Getting registered in SAM, you could look at it as your license to do business with the federal government. And so when you start that process, you get a UEI number that will alone allow you to go after grants and federal assistance and funding. And then the cage code would need to be required for government contracts. If you're in there, you're doing the work, definitely go ahead and get both and just set yourself up for any opportunity. And then once you have that cage code, the great thing about it is if you do your SAM registration and to do your vendor profile, that gets put on a database where other companies, other contracting officers will search for companies like you to do a certain service. They can reach out to you and ask you to bid on something. They can ask you to respond to something, and then they can sole source a contract to you where they're just automatically asking you if you want to do the work. And it's at that point in time, it's just paperwork. You send it back over and the contract's yours.
That's really, really helpful. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Follow-up question, Perry?
No, I have some things percolating in my mind, but for right now, I'm
Well,
really helpful.
would you like to stay with us here, like just in
Sure.
case? Okay,
Yeah,
great.
no
So
problem.
Ryan's jumped back on. Ryan, before we get a follow-up question from you, I just want to just tell people, so we have James coming on next, then Erin, we have David, and then we have Whiz Kids Academy. We're gonna ask a question about your question. So I just want to let you know we will get to you in the next 30 minutes here. But Adam, a question for you about Sam.gov. This comes up from time to time, and we've heard other people on our webinar series say this. I know it's not true, but there's a perception out there that, why would you need anyone to help you with your Sam.gov account? And I have heard other consultants, including on this session, say, you don't really need a company help you with your Sam account. It's a scam. I've heard that word used. I don't believe it at all. I think that your company provides a valuable service because it is a very complicated thing. Can you speak to why people have that perception and what is it that people don't get about why they might have a third party involved in something like this?
Yeah, I mean, that word is used so loosely, and I think it's just like a lot of other vocabulary words that people use. They just don't fully understand. I think some people maybe have the wrong impression because customers do need to be aware of what they're doing. And it's just like anything. If you can do it yourself and you have the time to do it, then do it. Save the money.
Yeah. And we've
That's
had
the
people use that
first-
word with our site as well.
Yeah,
They
it's the
don't
first
understand
thing I say to people.
there's a value proposition there.
Yeah, if somebody doesn't want my help, I don't want to waste their time. I don't want them to waste my time. I'll point them in the right direction, and hopefully everything works out. It's a nuisance to deal with them, and God forbid you have a rejection from from Sam and say we need this and this didn't work and this paperwork document didn't work. The time that you spend trying to communicate with them is for me alone enough for me to rather have somebody else do that.
Yeah, and I will echo that and say that we have a SAM account. I have in the past, in a previous consulting life, helped people with their SAM accounts just as a consultant. And there are just so many questions that come up in your SAM profile where you really have to understand why they're asking the question so that you answer it correctly. But you really need to understand why they're asking that question because it's not for no reason. Ryan, you may have a question. I'm going to have you ask it. And James, I'm going to bring you on as a panelist while we're answering Ryan's next question.
I would just say I totally agree with what you guys said about Sam.gov. I tried it on my own and I failed and got the rejection. So I'm with you on that 100%. I don't know if I have any other follow-up questions at the moment besides, I think we pretty much cleared it up with me on what to do post-bid. The last thing I need now to kind of put it all together is somebody or something to just check my proposals before I submit them and make sure I didn't miss them. Because another anecdote I'll give is I spoke about this the last time I was on here. I missed just because of a save form I forgot to fill out. I missed out on Augusta, Georgia bid for executive search of their general counsel. So I don't know if there's anything you could recommend on that, but that's something I really could use as like some sort of just a proofread check on to make sure I'm hitting all the check marks.
So, Percy, one of the things we do is we do proposal writing, but we also do proposal review. So literally, we have clients and they'll say, hey, listen, we've got this handled, but we're doing 2 other proposals. We need you to do this. We'll do part of the proposal for them. We'll do the whole thing. We do a lot of bid review where you've got it completed. You want to submit it over to us. We'll review it. We'll make corrections, or we'll make comments to correct something. If you leave something out, we'll say, hey, you're completely missing this. You'll get rejected. We need to add this statement in there, things like that. So we definitely can do that for you. My contact information is in the chat if you want to shoot me over an email. Are you in Florida? Is that right?
Yeah, Palm Beach County.
Okay, I'm in Bradenton, Florida. So,
Okay, yeah, okay, cool.
so, but I'd love to just jump on a call with you for 30, 40 minutes and we can just go over one of your last solicitations that you submitted and maybe go over some certain questions you have. I can do a little bit of investigating on it. We can
Sure, I'll send you an email right now.
Okay, cool.
Hey, Ryan, you can feel free to stay with us or drop off at any time.
Cool, yeah, you drop it
Yeah.
off.
James, before we jump to you, I just wanted, this is an anonymous
Ryan.
question from the audience. There was a question from the audience regarding SAM registration. Why is bank account information needed for for-profit small business SAM registration?
Yeah, pretty simple. The government does not mail you a check anymore. They have to send you an ACH, and they need an account to do that. If you are a sole proprietor, you can certainly use your own personal business account for that. But if you are a corporation or an LLC, you will definitely need a business account with that. That's also one other step that they know you've taken. The banks verify you, your identity, your business, things like that. So it gives it even more validation that you're a legitimate business.
Very well said. And James, I'm going to have you introduce yourself. I'll just let you know, Aaron, you're next, then David, and then Whiz Kids Academy. So James, welcome to MyGovWatch Live. What do you do and where are you joining us from?
Hey, what's up, man?
How you doing?
Man,
How you doing, James?
so much information that's been shared, and a lot of my questions have pretty much already been answered.
Uh-oh.
I currently work with Visit Vicksburg. I'm from Warren County, Mississippi. I'm a sports marketing agent as a 9 to 5 by day. But outside of that, I consider myself an entrepreneur. So I've got a few different situations going on as far as streams of income. None on the scale of billions of dollars, but hopefully we can scale some of those situations to that. I'm here today really to understand more about what Sam and MyGovWatch has to offer. I'm in a conversation group now with some people who are looking to create a new entity. And we're at the base level, so we're looking at options and avenues as far as what direction to go with the company. I want to push more towards a marketing firm, whether it be something regional or even scale it to a national situation. But I observed my group not really having a direction. And I ran across some information for these entities, MyGovWatch and Sam, in an effort to kind of find a direction to give to the group that I'm with.
Can I qualify your question with a question? Do you mean you're looking for direction within government contracting or whether
exactly
you pursue government contracting?
I think it's both, but me personally, I know that there's an avenue to travel within government contracting. So I think one of the questions that I have may have been answered already. I'm not sure. I've been trying to jot down some notes at the same time, but as far as the group that I'm with, the steps that we need to take to kind of make sure that we're in the right direction as far as government contracting and utilizing the services that you guys offer. Are there some small tips that you can provide me with? Like I said, a bunch of the questions have already been answered.
Yeah. Well, there's just a million questions. So what are you guys really good at?
We're really good at building our community up. There's a few projects that we're working on as far as within the city of Vicksburg that are going to push initiatives that deal with youth development. A lot of inner city kids that are, struggling with things. We work with the city. They have a youth development program. We implement projects and programs that kind of that are geared toward the youth. We also deal with, youth sports. But honestly, man, I'm looking at getting into a situation where, if it's possible, any contract that we see that may fit our mold, whether it be a little bit left or right, we want to be able to go after those.
James, you said something earlier, so I want to ask a question as well. Are you kind of trying to decide what you guys should do based on what type of contracts are out there and what would be the easiest? Or are you wanting to scale up with what you're already doing within the community?
The first part of that, yeah. See what's out there. Be
Okay.
able to approach what's out there and
Gotcha.
do it the right way without a bunch of hiccups. Now, you mentioned that some of the services that are provided can help us to avoid obstacles and roadblocks, you know, especially with proposal writing, excuse me, and reviewing anything that we've already put together. But I wanted to just be certain that, you know, once I take this to my organization, and some of the members may have questions, that I can answer those questions so that we're not asking the same question again to you guys if we're on a call or dealing with you.
So I'll answer the second part first. We can definitely help you with scaling business up and working directly with the government. That's literally what we do, is business development specifically with the government. So we can help with that. The first part, the advice that I would give you is make sure that you're choosing to do something within your wheelhouse. At the end of the day, the government is going to want you to show experience, have references, and be able to prove that you can do what they're going to pay you to do. And if you do not have that, you will not get a contract awarded to you. I do talk to a lot of people that want to do that, and so they procure items. So they want to just bid on computer contracts, tire contracts, you know, paper towel contracts. It doesn't matter, just procurement contracts. Those contracts, you still need to have a play, and a set aside will definitely help with that, because that's more likely to go to you. But you still need to have all those connections in place. And if you cannot walk in, if you bid on a contract, a procurement contract, and you want to go in and buy that product from somebody else, and then you be the reseller back to the government, you have to have that contract secured with that supplier. And I've seen it 100 times where somebody bids on a contract and they're going to sell tires because they got them at a low price. And they go into the supplier and the guy's like, all right, we'll give them to you. You know, your cost is $220,000. They're like, oh no, I'll pay you when the government pays me. And it doesn't really work like that. So you need to have all those conversations in place in order for you to bid on those types of contracts. So if you want to bid on just purchasing contracts, you can do that, but you still need to have a network that you're familiar with in order for you to supply those types of products.
Let me just add on to that, James, and say this, like just at a real simplistic 8th grade level, if you want general business development advice, that's SAM Directory. If you want a continuous daily feed of who is buying specific things through the bid process, you need MyGovWatch. And you may not be ready for us.
Yeah.
And I
that
should
helps.
say this. Dr. Carrie Valencia is still with us, and she is saying that she would like your contact information. So you could either say it, and this will be on YouTube later, or you can type it, or you could type it into the chat either to me or to everyone, and the attendees will see it.
Yeah, I saw that. I saw that message come across my screen. Yeah, I don't mind sharing it in the chat.
That would be great.
Okay.
Thanks, James. I want to reach out to you.
Yeah, and Carrie, if you have any questions that feel germane now to James, that's fine. This is meant to be a conversation. It doesn't have to be just Adam and I.
Right.
No, yes. Well, I wanted his info for just, I'm interested in what you're doing, because we work with two athletes actually who are starting their own business. So anyway,
Oh,
for
nice.
this.
Okay.
Yeah.
This would not be the first time. This would not be the first time that people ended up working with one another because of MyGovWatch Live. And that's always fun for me, because it's more than just a learning environment. Like, people end up interacting and networking through these events. So it's great. So Carrie, James, stay with us. I'm going to bring Erin Riley on with us. Let's do that. And then we have 2 questions that have been typed. And I promise you folks, David and WizKids Academy, we're going to get to you next. And just while we're waiting for Erin, Adam, a question for you. What has been happening with Sam.gov? Are there, like, I know there were a lot of problems with the system going back a few years. What are some of the recent problems people have been having, and what are you having to do to deal with things?
Yeah, the one that's 2 years ago was the UEI number. So Dun & Bradstreet went away and you just got a UEI number. It was a huge deal and people didn't really know what to do. And then I still see RFPs out there where it asks for your DUNS number, to be honest with you. It's still out there on different government sites. The newest one is the FSD has changed some of their entity administrator letters forms. And so a lot of people are downloading the old form, and even though it may just be almost the same, it's not the same numbered form, and they're getting rejected really quickly. And then it seems to be a bug, but some people that have registered and their account has expired have not been able to go in and accept their admin role in order for them to renew their registration. And that's a very common problem right now.
It's maddening. I'm just amazed, and I've been amazed that a system that's been around as long as it's been around, with the near unlimited resources of the federal government, can in some ways be far behind private sector systems.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're catching up. I imagine that's because, you look at one company and they got to upgrade one system, and the government looks at the government systems and they got to update 100,000 systems, and then every state is another 20,000 systems. And I think that's the big, what do we do first? What's most important? And, where are we failing at once we do get it fixed so we can go back in and fix it again? That's huge. It's one of those things. It's all the more important to make sure that you get this done. You start it well in advance, or you get help doing it, regardless of what you want to do. It helps we have clients that call us and say, we want to add these NAICS codes and we need to change a point of contact in our SAM. They email us that and it gets done, versus them talking to the FSD and logging in and doing it themselves. Clients will say, hey, a contracting officer requested our FARs and DFARs. I don't even know what that means. And we say, okay, we'll get it for you. We go on there, we download it. We know that they're good because we've checked off on everything. And those are just people that really want to do government contracting. Those are things that's always going to be beneficial to them to have that service, versus answering questions for the first time that they really don't know how to answer.
Fair enough. Fair enough. And there's always a new thing coming down the pike. And you guys are keeping, and then if you just jump in and yourself, you certainly may be able to figure it out. But if you just get someone to help you with it, boy, you're going to save yourself a lot of time. So, Erin Riley, thank you for joining us at MyGovWatch Live. What do you do, and where are you joining us from?
Okay, I'm in business development, and I'm joining you today from Norristown, which is, where Norristown is, not too far from Philadelphia. Yes. And so we're busy. You talked to my colleague, Faith Kroll, I believe, at the beginning.
Oh, okay, great.
Yes. So we're really busy and we are having a great time with it, but we are responsible for business development for a small business organization, which does, its business is government contracts. So we are, not only finding the opportunities, but we are the ones writing and managing the process, and then seeking the debriefings and everything that we've discussed so far. We are the team doing. So a lot of what was running through my head has already been answered, but I did still have one question. I am terribly confused about the relationship between Sam.gov and login.gov. Can someone please clarify my confusion? Because I have had a very bad time of it with that.
Yes. Okay. All right, Nick, for me to take that one?
Yeah, please.
Awesome. So login is where you're going to be able to go and actually go to the FSD and upload incident report or incident documents, entity letters, and different things like that. So you log in with the same information on both sites, right? If you need to change personal information in your profile, if you need to add an email account, if you need to change how you verify you're signing in, your two-step verification method. If you need to, there's knowledge-based articles in there where you can link your account to like Sam.gov or USspending.gov and different things like that. But the primary reason it's used is if the FSD tells you need to log into it and upload a document, or if you need to change your personal information in your profile. Honestly, I never go into my login Sam. I always go to just Sam.gov. right? And the last time I did that, I changed the email account on my email username. And that's the only time that I've been in there. You can also download backup codes, and that is one way that you can sign into your registration. If you forget how to do that, you know, forget your password or something like that. But you can basically, it is your CRM to change your profile information, as well as upload any incident documents requested by the FSD.
Okay, okay. So I'm just gonna kind of share a couple more things. You know, we're spending a lot of time daily going through our own collection of search engines out there. And I would love to streamline that process, because at the same time we're doing that, we're responsible for, you know, multiple proposals at the same time. Like, there's a lot happening. So I'm trying to really work on improving processes sort of across the team so that we can move forward. But I also feel that, you know, I'm old school in the sense that I understand we have the technology, the importance of it, and how all these proposals are now through their own portals usually, and et cetera, et cetera. But what do you think about in this day and age? Are there in-person networking, organizational, like actually with people live opportunities that can help you get ahead in the government contracting arena?
Great question. There are industry days that are announced on Sam.gov. And these industry days will have a description with a date, a register link. Sometimes they're virtual. They were virtual during COVID 100% of the time. And then I saw that trickle off into doing in person again. Those are excellent places to go to. There's two things that are going to happen there. You're going to talk to contracting officers that are going to teach you on what you need to be saying, who you need to be talking to, and how you need to present a project.
Okay.
You're going to see forecasts, funding opportunities that are coming out. So you'll see early funding announcements. You'll get firsthand information on that, so you can be prepared for forecasts. And then you're going to see a lot of people that are also wanting to get into the government space. That's your client base right there, to be honest with you. People that are there to learn how to do government contracting and how to respond to it, that is probably your client base, right? So those are going to be, the attendees are going to be a lot of people that you would want to be speaking with, essentially. A lot of these, you can set up booths if you have a company and you want to, you know, purchase a booth, just like any other conference. There is one in Maryland every year, and it is I believe it's done by the DoD, and it is basically for all government contracting, all agencies and departments, vendors and attendees that are wanting to learn anything from the very basic to, you know, submitting an SBIR grant. And so that's a really good one to go to. I want to say it's in Maryland, middle of the summer, maybe May, something like that. But
Okay.
if you go to sam.gov and type in industry day, or that is actually a type of solicitation that you can choose in your filter, or a special notice, and you'll be able to filter all those that come out. There are others, I'm sure. I know, like Deltec puts one on, Bloomberg puts one on. So there are others out there that private companies will do. That would just kind of be getting onto their sites and kind of looking to see when that schedule comes up.
Okay, okay. So now when you're talking about the Maryland opportunity, which interests me a lot, that's like at the federal level? Are there state?
There are state.
Okay.
Yes, and the state will do the same thing. The state will put out on, so if you're registered on your state's procurement site to do business with the state, as well as look for opportunities, same deal. They may have it titled a little bit different, but normally it's special notice, industry day, information day, something like that. And so you can look and you can source for those as well too. And those will obviously all be out from the state department heads.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. And I wanted to also let you know that I learned today that you can actually do searches on sam.gov. We had not been doing that. We're registered, but we hadn't been using it. Yeah, we hadn't been using it as a search tool.
Okay, so a couple key points there. You know, you can set notifications to get an email as well, right? So when you save a search, You go into it, there's 3 dots up to the right-hand side. You click on that and it will next to your saved search and it will say notify. And it will send an email to the email you have listed. Very important to do. Nick will obviously want to talk to you about GovWatch because it's going to help you, a lot more user friendly, right? Because Sam.gov is kind of a pain in the butt a lot of times. The other thing that you can do is you can really filter using your NAICS codes with keywords. So if your industry codes are going to encompass a lot of different types of contracts that are not pertinent to you, you can start playing around with a few industry keywords and use those to see if something populates a little bit more correct with what you guys want to do.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
I just want to take that one step further, Erin.
Yes.
Just to supplement what Adam just went over. We have found, and some of our algorithm is built around this, the specific combination of NAICS codes with product service codes have a tremendous amount of weight in the system. So you certainly should do NAICS code searches, yes, but you should identify which specific combination of NAICS codes with product service codes, because there is one on each item on Sam.gov, or 99.9% of them. What are the combinations that have the highest likelihood of being relevant, and understand those combinations? And we should have an offline conversation because we have a partnership program where one hand washes the other. If you're referring people to us, we're referring people to you.
Okay, yes, let's talk. And I did appreciate your call yesterday. I missed it, but
Yeah,
yes,
no
but I
worries.
got it. Thank
No
you.
worries. No worries. So, Erin, you're free to stay with us. Scott has joined with another question. Scott, just before we take your question, there's someone who is asking from the WizKids Academy. I would like to answer your question after we talk to Scott again, but I feel like we need some clarification on the question. So if you're still with us, please raise your hand because I'd like to bring you on to answer that question. And I can only see anonymous attendee for WizKid Academy. So Scott, thank you for coming back. What would you like to talk about now?
Yeah, I wanted to make an observation about one of the questions that Aaron had asked about the difference between Sam.gov and login.gov that I found in some of my activities. And that is that other agencies besides GSA or outside of the procurement specific function will require a government ID to sign on, to get information or pursue some other type of qualification or response. And login.gov now serves, I believe, as almost like a universal identifier that will allow you to log into other agencies that require verification. I think I did that recently with the IRS, for example. I think I may have done it with Social Security. So I'm not positive about that, but I believe that is another function outside of just registering for the first time with SAM that login.gov can be used for.
Yes, it will work interagency. And if you have a sam.gov, you automatically have a login ID. It's one and the same. So if you ever go to a government agency and it asks you to sign in, if it says create a new sign in or sign in with one of these things, you know, it could be a veteran ID card, it could, whatever it may be, you can choose login and it will be your username and password with sam.gov.
So we have, I'm sorry, go ahead. We do have this question. I'm just going to see if we can answer it in some way. So this person writes, I'm in the process of creating my SAM account. WizKid Academy provides enrichment programming for schools. Can you share if educational contracts are government contract, quote unquote, government contracts, or are they more like state and local? I'm just going to surmise from that question that what you mean is, are educational contracts solely coming from the federal government, or are they coming from state and local government? My answer would be all of the above. Certainly a lot of state and local contracts involving education, the dollars may ultimately be coming from state government or the federal government, but there is a ton of purchasing that's happening at the school district level for educational products and services. And we have 3 or 4 categories for that on MyGovWatch.com. Not sure if you're still with us, but that's the answer I'd give on that. Yoko Allen, could you please raise your hand if you would be willing to join us for your question? Because I think I know what you mean. Yes. Okay. So we're going to bring Yoko on and let's do it. And at that point, we will be fully caught up on questions, Adam. Yoko, can you hear us? Do we have your audio? Now we can see you, but we can't hear you. There we go.
you go.
And I apologize for looking like I'm in the dark.
No, you're
You're
fine.
fine.
I guess you're just backlit. That's fine. Thanks for joining us, Yoko. What do you do and where are you joining us from? And I forgot to ask half of the people that I've talked to in the last half hour, any Halloween plans or anecdotes?
No Halloween plans, but I am I'm looking forward to enjoying my weekend. I'm the founder and chief consultant for PH2 Connection LLC, which is a public health consultancy for small to mid-size businesses, particularly those that are receiving contracts via the federal government. So I'm their subcontractor or their outreach company, and I am for profit. And there's a question that I am supposed to ask you. Are you asking me to repeat the question that I included in the chat?
Just maybe
in the Q&A?
elaborate. Could you elaborate on the question a little bit? Because I think I know what you're asking, but I just want to hear a little bit more about it.
Okay, let me just go back because I have several in here.
Subcontracting, I know that.
Oh, yeah. So I wanted to know if, well, the first question I wanted to know is if you're a subcontractor and you are registered in SAM or wanting to register, and you're asked bank account information, why is bank account information asked? That's one question that I had. If you're for profit, I could understand if you're not for profit because you're getting federal funding. But if you're for profit, then why would your bank account information be necessary?
So
another question that I had, I'm sorry.
Well, I just want to jump in there because I think you may have asked an anonymous question and you may have had to jump off, but I think Adam did answer that. Adam, just want to give like the 20-second version. It will be on the recording on YouTube, the longer version.
Yeah, so it's needed in order for you to complete your SAM registration. Regardless if you do business as a for-profit, nonprofit, or as a subcontractor, it is a requirement to have a CAGE code. And the reason they require that is because they do not mail checks. Everything is done electronically. It just makes it a lot easier for the government to track its spending.
I see. And also if you're a subcontractor and you want to change your status to contractor, what stipulations should you consider in doing so? Or is it better to establish a new organization under a different name and make that new company a contractor business and just simply cancel the subcontractor business?
So the only reason that you are a subcontractor now is because that's what you are doing for another prime company. So the prime company is the prime contractor, you're the subcontractor. If you bid on a contract tomorrow and got that contract awarded to you directly, you would be a prime contractor. You don't worry about contractor, subcontractor. If you are bidding on a contract, you are going to be the prime contractor. Being a subcontractor on a government contract is excellent past performance. So what you need to do is do a good job, which I'm sure you are, and make sure that you have all the information from the contracting officer, point of contact information, email, phone number, his name, his title, and let him know that you would like a letter of recommendation if he can provide one, or a grade for your past performance. The other thing you need to do is make sure that the prime company you're working with is listing you as a subcontractor, because that contracting officer has to do what's called a contract evaluation, and that goes into past performance portal only for government use. And they list subcontractors on there. So when you're bidding on something as a prime or as a sub, and you are going to be graded, they're going to look you up and you'll look your past performance up. You're listed in that database, which is the best references you can get when you're bidding on government contracts.
And
Okay.
Yoko,
Thank
I would add this as well. And this is really just supplementary to what Adam just went over. The last thing I would want is two different entities with two different SAM registrations, just because one you use as a prime vehicle and one as a sub. So let me ask you a question. What made you inclined to wonder whether you should have multiple entities for multiple SAM accounts for prime sub? Like, what led you to maybe wonder if that was a good idea?
Well, I didn't think it was a good idea. I was just wondering if that would be my best option. If
Yeah.
I didn't know what the stipulations were.
Yeah.
And so now that Adam has explained, it doesn't really matter if you're a subcontractor or a contractor, status wise in SAM, it's a matter of the role that you're playing.
Right.
Yeah,
And what I did not want to do in the beginning as a new small business is become a contractor without first having had the experience of a subcontractor. So right now I'm working with prime organizations, and working with prime organizations allows me an opportunity to enhance some of my skills as it pertains to business development and SAM, or as a SAM registrant.
Now, there
So
are
in SAM, they do not list you as a prime or a sub. That's not even something that they list in Sam.gov about your business. You're not a prime or a sub until you take that role. So you are whatever. You're always a prime vendor until some company says, "Hey, we want you to be a subcontractor." So look at it that way. They don't list you as one or the other. It depends on what role you're playing on that project.
And your
I
SAM
see.
registration,
Okay.
your SAM registration is for the entity, and conceivably you can have multiple entities under the same SAM registration, but you could be simultaneously a sub under XYZ LLC and a prime, and it's all under one SAM account, assuming you only have one entity.
I see. Okay. I prefer not to have multiple. I prefer to remain as one entity, just because it gets so confusing
Yeah,
having multiples. But I just wanted to make sure that I didn't enter into a business situation or see an opportunity and then at the last minute have to change my status. So what you're saying is, even though I've selected the subcontractor box during my registration, I can still be a prime organization on a particular contract,
absolutely.
but also on a second contract serve as a subcontractor.
Correct.
So either way, yeah, I can still work under the same business name.
I have clients that are literally a prime on
An
one
ID.
contract and simultaneously do a subcontractor on another contract at the same time. So yeah, definitely. And also, when you start looking at set-asides like the woman-owned business, that increases your chances to do business, and you have to dedicate full-time employment to one company. So if you open up another company, you would be losing past performance that you've already created, and you would eliminate yourself from being able to apply for those set-asides, which I encourage you to do.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Very helpful. Thank
So
you.
Yoko, any additional follow-up questions? Well, Adam, we're at 90 minutes, and you know, this may organically end up being an hour and a half, but Yoko, did you have anything else?
No, you've answered two very important questions that I've had for a minute. Thank you.
Well, we're happy to be of help, and we're happy to have Adam on with us today. Adam, before I wrap things up, how would you like people to connect with you? Do you want to share your email address, maybe?
I did. I put it in chat. I think if you can't see it, shoot a message and I will definitely post it in there again. I see some in here. Yeah, it looks like James and Carrie connecting. What are recommendations on how to leverage small business certifications, HubZone, WSB? It looks like I think Aaron just messaged.
Yeah, my apologies, Aaron. I didn't realize you had a follow-up question. Yeah,
No
let's fill
problem.
this one. So recommendations on how to leverage small business certifications to access more government contracts. Why don't you take the federal angle, Adam, and I'll take the state and local angle.
Yeah, definitely. And the federal approach works the same for state, just to throw that out there. So you want to leverage that as obviously going after contracts that are going to be set aside for those specific set asides, as well as any contract you've been on without a set aside. If you're competing with non-set aside company owners, then you're still going to be a little bit higher percentage chance of that getting awarded to you, because at the end of the day, those COs have budgets they need to fulfill. As far as leveraging it in the sense of being a subcontractor, we do forecast for the top number of companies in your area, whether it's state, local, or nationally, that are bidding on active contracts and have built past performance with the government. We try to connect you with those companies to be on their subcontracting plan. If you have set asides, they're always looking for companies with different capabilities and set aside so that they can have the ability to basically bid on more contracts that are out there.
And just to follow on to that, what I would add is at the state and local level, don't assume that if you have a client, and I know that you have clients and you're talking about clients, Aaron, don't assume that if your client is a federally designated small disadvantaged business, that that client automatically has the City of New York's minority certification. Look at the state and local stuff as a separate process, and don't assume if you qualify for something federally, you'll qualify for something that's equivalent at the state and local level. You have to look into it at the jurisdictional level to know that. So that would be the only thing I would add to that. So, Adam, any parting thoughts?
No, I don't have any. It was a great conversation, great questions today, and hopefully I answered everyone's questions the best I could, and it was beneficial for everyone.
Absolutely, it has been. And I will just say thanks. That'll do it for today's edition of MyGovWatch Live. To connect with Adam, email him at adam@sam.directory. That's adam@sam.directory. And remember, if you're not already a subscriber, start your free 14-day trial of mygovwatch.com today. If you want to win more government contracts for less, you'll be glad you did. Thanks so much, Adam.
Thank you very much.
Yep.
Thanks for having me.
Yep. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.